Well, it's a very great pleasure for us this evening to say hello to an up-and-coming Merseyside group, the Beatles. And I know their names, and I'm going to try and put faces to them. Now, you're John Lennon, aren't you?
Yes, that's right.
What do you do in the group, John?
I play harmonica, rhythm, guitar, and vocal.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they call it.
John was never about virtuosity. Utilitarian is just about perfect in describing his instrumental skills. He was able to translate his ideas into musical compositions, and he was extremely successful in getting his ideas across. The first instrument John played was the banjo, which his mother taught him. The very first tune I ever learned to play was That'll Be the Day. My mother taught it to me on the banjo. Sitting there with endless patience until I managed to work out all the chords, John Lennon said. When he got a guitar, he played banjo chords on it until Paul taught him how to do it correctly. He also learned about at the same time to play the harmonica. John Lennon was given a harmonica by his uncle George Smith when he was a child, and after his uncle's death, John began to teach himself. Having played harmonica through early Beatles gigs, John developed his technique in 1962 when the Beatles were on tour with Bruce Channel, and Bruce's harmonica player, Delbert McClinton, gave John some tips which influenced John's playing on the Beatles' debut single, Love Me Do. John stole the harmonica he used on Love Me Do from a shop in Arnhem in 1960 because he had the first one for a very long time, at least 10 years. Lennon's harmonica was the first identifying element of the Beatles' sound, besides their vocal harmonies, and was featured regularly on their early releases, including their first real hit, Please Please Me. Another distinctive use of the harmonica was on the track There's a Place, where it serves an almost Miles Davis function, if one can allow for that in such a fevered pop music. After their initial run of records, the harmonica dropped from the Lennon toolkit until it came back in 1968 as part of Rocky Raccoon. It was never his primary instrument, and he never intended to seriously commit to it. The novelty wore off, and he took other musical challenges, like developing his piano skills. He knew he wasn't a genius instrumentalist. He's mentioned being insecure as a guitarist when it came to playing with non-Beatle musicians. He understood he was not a technical player, but acknowledged that he could make a guitar scream or howl. He had what he needed to make a great song and recording. Great rhythm guitarist, electric guitar had a lot of ska, great use of chords, not just the common major and minor chords. Acoustic was crisp, concise, and driving, and a very competent finger pick style guitarist, picking the style he picked up from Donovan in India in 1968. Also mega props to John for his keyboard playing ability as well. Lennon took to the piano heavily later in his career, especially as a solo artist. He wasn't talented as Paul, of course, but he had a great style, sense of melody, and good instincts on exactly what to add to a track like I'm Down or She's a Woman or Night Before to improve them, and most importantly, he didn't try to overplay. John's playing was always pretty rudimentary, but marked by his unique sense of time and key signature changes, lots of surprising chromatic changes, and sudden bursts of 2 or 3 beat bars in the middle of a 4/4 song. No one else takes songs where he does. What made him such a great singer is not how technically proficient he was in singing. What really made him a great singer was his expressiveness. He succeeded in always sounding like he meant what he sang, that it came from the song's perspective, and not merely as someone performing the music. He never sounded like he was faking it, even in such a relatively less successful moments, like Mr. Moonlight. And it wasn't only that, as he could sound tender and later hard, he had a whole range of emotions. He didn't have the range of high and low notes that others have, but he had range enough that it didn't hold him back. So overall, he was an excellent singer in getting his music across to the listener. Lennon's vocal abilities as both a lead singer and harmony singer are equally important in discussing his musicianship. In that regard, he could really tear up a rock vocal melody as well as deliver an intimate, quieter vocal line, delivering both with authority and confidence. He was also a brilliant harmony singer. Sadly, the vocal range and authority that Lennon had in those days, while exploited for a while, ultimately went dormant after the Beatles. He remained a powerful singer at times, but did not keep up the work of it as McCartney did. That takes nothing away, though, from the intensity nor the value of his performances as recorded. He played bass on Fixing a Hole takes at Regent Studios. It's a super simple part, and he managed to make a lot of mistakes in it. In second attempt, even more than the first. But perhaps he thought it's just a rehearsal or a run-through that wouldn't be used later. He managed to play similar that simple bass part better in Rocky Raccoon, although for some weird reason that song has a second bass guitar overdubbed on top as well. When Beatles did first 3 takes of Helter Skelter, he just played E quarter notes for minutes straight. His bass playing during Get Back period is not much better, again with Paul re-recording bass for Let It Be song later. Considering all those cases, and not only couple days in January, his bass playing was just below mediocre. His bass parts were either hidden or mixed with another bass track or completely re-recorded. He didn't really enjoy being sharp into playing bass, or even care a little bit. George played some nice bass lines. In comparison, he must have thought about it as sort of after-school detention or something. And in later years, not only he had to play bass, but those were also all Paul songs, which fact probably didn't add too much excitement or involvement for John. Great musical instincts and creativity were John's particular skills in songwriting, playing piano, guitar, and singing. Very expressive, he always had the chops to do what he needed to do in each situation on each song he would play. As genius as Paul in his own quirky array, because he played and wrote great music, and that made him a great musician. Not really some sort of virtuoso, known for blistering speed, but plenty competent to play what he played, and to play how he wrote, for himself and his band.
Hello.
That was Ringo, folks.
Well, what can I say?
And goodbye
You
to
know.
all of us.
Well, this is Ringo. Everyone seems to have said everything here, so I'll just sign off by saying cheerio and best of luck from the Beatles.